What's up, guys? Welcome back to Cruising with the Cottons. My name is Nikisha, and today we have a special guest. We have Miss Raven McKinney, a really good friend of mine that has went through a recent transition, and she's going to be here talking to us about that. But let me go ahead and jump in and tell you what today's video is about. As you can tell by the title, today's video is about when God tells you to pivot. Pivoting can be a very scary thing because when you're used to something that you've been doing for months, weeks, or years, even, and he tells you to go a different direction, that can be scary, especially if you don't walk that out. So I encourage you to stay throughout this entire video to be able to know, so you can be able to get a clear understanding of basically how to pivot and the direction to go in. So, hello, Miss Raven. How are
Hello,
you?
hello. Yes.
So, just tell us a little bit about yourself and basically your journey.
Awesome. Well, I'm Raven. Nice to meet everybody. And a little bit about me. Well, a short version of me, not everything. But I was in the Marine Corps. I did that for a couple years, pretty much 4 years right after high school. Then went into being a medical assistant. I worked in a lab at an OBGYN for about 5 years, and then got saved and got called into the ministry. So I went into going to schooling for Christian studies, did that for a little bit just to be able to learn a little bit more. I got called into a business opportunity as well during that time, more about network marketing, and did that for about 4.5 years. Then actually pivoted into working for a pregnancy center. So that's what I'm currently doing right now. And with that, working at the pregnancy center, I'm actually a community ambassador for them. So I go around and speak about a little bit of my story and who we are and what we do, and just be able to encourage people and help them however I can. So that's a little short version. And
So, you mentioned that you were in marketing and you did a pivot. Tell us a little bit about that.
awesome. So there was a quote that was always said when it came to network marketing business, at least the business that I was in. Is they said when it goes from your head to your heart, that's when the business will grow. And for a while, I was building the business a lot from my head. Really, the majority of the time was from my head, and it had got to a point that I was doing it more out of validation, more out
Mm.
of receiving from outside of me than listening to God within me. And the reason why I even got started in the business was because I did want to be able to help people, and of course I wanted to be able to help make money. I mean, who doesn't want to make money and everything? And at the time, I was going through a separation with my son's father. So it was during the perfect time that, yeah, I needed something additional wise. And the environment of the business and the people and the team was really a good starter for me. It was a really good time for me to be able to embrace my gifts and to really learn how to communicate, how to be able to network with different groups of people. But it, again, going back to that saying of when it goes from your head to your heart, that's when the business will grow. I never did really understand that. And again, in my mind, it was more of trying to seek out validation. And that stems from past trauma, really. But it came to the point that I sat really within myself and with God, and I had to be real. I had to come to that point that, am I really doing this from my heart? And I realized I wasn't. And the hardest thing, because when you do something for, again, I was in business for about 4.5 years, so that was my whole support system. When you're doing something for that long, like you said, it can be very scary to just say, oh, okay, I'm gonna walk away from all of this. But I knew that God would never leave me. I knew that he always has something for me. that just because maybe that wasn't particularly the vehicle that I was just going to continue in, I could have grace with myself, and I could be able to realize that there was so much good that came out of it. And I feel like sometimes that when we can look at a time of our lives and be able to have gratitude towards it, and be able to see the tools and the resources and even the people that we got to meet, that it wasn't for nothing. That it's okay to be able to take that shift, because it builds your faith, it builds your trust in God that again, everything is going to be okay. So yeah, I don't know if you,
Wow.
yeah.
That was that was a lot, but it was
Yeah, I
just
kind of
so
just like
good.
went all into it. Yeah, yeah.
People really need to hear this, and I especially
Mm,
want to touch on like the emotions and the feelings of what you were going through before you actually took that leap of faith to go a different direction.
mm.
So what were you feeling? I mean, it's like we said, I know we repeated it, but when God tells you, okay, I want you to make that shift, I want you to go in a different direction, and you're like, okay, how do I do that? But at the same time, you got all this attachment to what you're used to, and then you
Mm.
have the nervousness, maybe a little bit of fear to go towards another direction. So were you having those fears? Like, what thoughts or what conversations were you having with God before making that exit?
Yeah, I definitely was fighting it, because it would be pretty much easier or more comfortable for me to stay, because I'd already established roots there. I'd already made those relationships. I had already got into the routine of, the meetings and just like the business style of it. So taking the leap or changing shifts, yes, and then having to go at it pretty much alone, like not being understood on why this is happening, why this shift is happening, because it wasn't like I planned it. So
Right.
there was some anxiety, there was some fearness in it. But I think when you really sit again and get in solitude and really listen to God, I think it's really that I knew it the whole time. It was really that I wasn't quite listening to God. I wasn't, again, I was going more in my mind. And your mind can be more of your ego as well. So when you're feeding your ego, when you're getting the applause, or again, when you're getting the validations and all of that, that fear or that ego is like, I don't want to leave that. I don't want, you're going to take this away from me. Well, why? We can just stay here and just do this. And that's not of God. So
Mhm.
I did struggle with it, but I didn't, I don't want to miss out. And I didn't want to miss out on what God truly has for me. And also for other people to miss out on the gift that I can be able to give to them because of my disobedience for trying to fulfill something, because of fear, or because of, again, whatever that I felt like I was missing during that time. So that's why I said earlier that, I really had to just look at it as in, it was still a very important part in my life, because it taught me so much. I went from having a baby, not having no type of business skills, nothing, to getting into a business and learning so much. So it was perfect timing for me, and to be able to again get into that type of environment, which molded me, which shaped me into me even being able to be a community ambassador for a pregnancy center. So if I didn't have that part with the network marketing, then it wouldn't have set me up for other things, which will set me up even later on for different things when I moved and I shift as well. And I think we always have to be flexible as well, because God already knows the plans of your life. I mean, it's drawn out, and God loves you, and God wants everything and desires of your heart to fulfill all of that. So there's things that we may not be aware of that obviously God is. So sometimes we have to, again, get in that solitude, be able to get in silence to say, okay, where is God trying to lead me? Because am I staying somewhere just because of, again, validation or maybe loyalty or this or that or whatever? Again, it could even be based in trauma wise. Or am I going to be like the wave and be like the ocean, be able to flow and again be able to get into what God truly has for me? And that's where peace comes at too. So really,
Yeah.
during that time, like on the outside, I look great. I'm thriving. I'm pushing along and going and all of that. But inside, internally, I am struggling. I am not restful. um, I
Yeah.
am beating myself up and thinking that I'm not good enough or I'm this and that, and that's not of God's word. That's not of God's thing. And this is just my story. This is not everybody's. And I would say when I moved and when I shifted, it was more of a peace for me. It was more of, even though again I was scared to do it, but as soon as I made that decision that okay, I'm going to make that shift, I could tell that it was time. It was time.
Yeah.
And I was able to move.
So I'm glad you shared that, like, because um I remember you and I having a conversation. I remember our last conversation together, or rather, I actually remember the last couple conversations we had together. And most of you don't know, but we were in the same business.
Yeah.
So, same
Yes.
opportunity. We had tons of conversations. That's actually how we met. And
Yeah.
slowly, I didn't know that she was like leaving the business, but I could,
Like.
like, this is how I knew she was like exiting because there was a piece. There's a lot of stipulations, things that people say about multi-level marketing businesses, whatever the case may be. And there are some people that leave the business because it's not working or they're not seeing the success that they want in the amount of time that they think they need to see it. And that's why they leave. They
Yeah.
blame it, they blame everybody else of why the business is not working. Raven, on the other hand, I could just like when I tell you guys that she just had like a peace over her, I'm not just saying this just like to hype her up or anything, but like you just really had a piece of that I could just tell there was something different. And
Mm,
I used to always hear that spirit knows truth. Spirit,
yeah.
it doesn't matter if you're a believer or not. You know somebody is being phony or whatever the case may be. It's like you can just tell.
Yeah.
And as she was making that transition or having those conversations with God, I could just tell that there was a peace. And this doesn't necessarily mean that everybody's going to have that same peace. But I
Yeah.
just want to points that I believe will help you when you feel like God is telling you to pivot either from a business opportunity or from some other place. He's just calling you to a different direction. And one of them is a holy disconnect.
Mm,
And between a holy disconnect and just discontent. Like discontentment is, you're in an environment, you have something negative to say about everybody there. You just discontent. Um,
yeah.
a holy disconnect though is when you just know there's just
Mm,
something in you that's just like, I know I'm not supposed to be here. I
yeah.
know that I'm supposed to be somewhere else. And it's not that you're chasing rabbits or you're chasing other things. It's just you just know deep inside that God has a bigger purpose for you.
Yeah.
And did you feel that? Like that holy disconnect or yeah, the holy disconnect?
Oh yeah, for sure. It had got to a point that I would, and I haven't even told anybody this, but sitting in one of our meetings, I just kind of felt like I wasn't even there. Like it was just so, like I was there obviously and I was listening, but
That's crazy.
it was just like it, like how you say spirit doesn't lie. We all have a spirit whether you believe or not. And it was just like I just knew it, and it was just this peace. It was just this bliss. It was just like I'm really kind of just floating. I'm just kind of here. And I just knew. And I didn't leave as soon as I would have because I was trying to stay because of some people, because they were telling me, "Hey, just give it some more time, give it to after this and all of that." And out of respect for them, I was like, okay, because maybe I am, I don't know. But I would sit in those meetings and I would sit in those things, and I'm just like, I could, again, it was just that it wasn't of anger, it wasn't of resentment, it wasn't of I hate these people or my business is not growing. It was nothing of that. It was just like, wow, it's time. It's time. And I wasn't even saying that, oh, I'm called to, the pregnancy center I'm working at. That's not what I was thinking neither. It wasn't even that, and it's still not. It was that my growth and who God has made me to be is going to be expanded in a different way, and where I was at within the team, within the business, wasn't my way to expand anymore. So with that, again, that was a shift that I had to make, because at one point I came to a block on I've always, let me go back. I've always been big on spiritual growth, growing myself, all of that. And being in our business, is a lot with growth. It's a lot about a lot of things. And but it came to a point that I felt very blocked. Like where do I go from here? Because there were deeper things that really needed to be addressed, that nobody could fix it but me and God. So that was another shift that God had to be able to awaken in me, to say it's time to, because you need to look at some things that maybe your mentors or your people on your team and stuff like that is not going to just fix for you. And again, that comes with solitude, that comes with silencing all the outside things and being able to come back within yourself, and again having that time with God. So I'm even in that transition still and working on things. And so all of that is kind of like, yeah, it was brought up, and during those meetings and during those things. And it wasn't for long. It was probably about like a good month that I was just in that, because again I was just kind of staying around just cuz. And another thing is that I had to have the courage. I had the courage to do it and
Yeah,
to again be able to know that not everybody is going to take it correctly. Not everybody is going to agree. Not every but again, me and God know. And God always is there, and God always will have my back. No matter what I do, no matter what decision there is, there's no, he will never leave me nor forsake me. So having that foundation, I knew that I was safe. I knew I was safe. Mhm.
that that's really good.
Yeah.
So many points that you hit on, and I'm just like,
Yeah, right.
but one, it does take courage
Mm,
because it's easier to stay in a place that is comfortable to you,
yeah.
and you got the rhythm, you got your schedule, and you
Yep.
want to step outside of it. And not only is it scary to step out because of, the comfortability, but it's
Mm,
also scary because of what other people are going to think. You
yeah.
said it. Stick around because of other people. You stick
Yeah.
around because you were what somebody else would think or how they
Hmm.
would handle
Yeah.
it. And self being in that same industry, let me preface this by saying, like, I need Holy Spirit me. It is not the business. Multi-level marketing businesses are great. It's
Yep.
not the
Exactly.
people.
Yep.
People are great.
Exactly.
But at the same time, people are people.
Yep.
And when people are people, sometimes in that industry, we can portray things on people that we don't even realize.
Yeah.
And one of the portray on people is, oh, that person lost their dream,
Yeah.
or this and that. And for somebody that is in a situation where they're looking to pivot, but they're scared because of what somebody else is going to think, let me
Hmm.
just encourage you by just do it.
Yep.
That's the best
Exactly.
thing to do.
That's
Is
nothing but fear.
it's nothing but fear.
Yeah.
And when you just sit in that, it eats at you. And you just like
Yeah.
you're doing the routine comfortable. You're showing up every week because it's comfortable, but deep down inside, you just know that you're not supposed to be there. And
Yeah.
you know, be more afraid of disobeying God than what somebody else is going to think about you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and so something else that you said earlier about you just had a time where you had to sit with God and you just had to really check your motives.
Yeah.
I went through that same, and this is one of the things that I want to teach on, or touch on, about when you know that to make a shift. When you're in an environment where it's heavily promoted to basically focus on yourself or be so heavily focused on your goals and things like that, and there's nothing wrong with that, but
Hmm.
sometimes if you're not careful, it can like it can get you in this phase of just focusing on yourself. And
Yeah.
that is, you start focusing on how you can basically use people to get what you want.
Exactly.
And like at some point you have to, and I feel like that's what that where that holy disconnect comes from, because you start sitting there and you're like, okay, whether you're at a job or wherever it is, I'm not just talking about multi-level marketing, but it's just
Yeah.
something that we resonate with. We've been in that industry together.
Yeah.
But you're sitting in an environment and it's like God starts pulling on your heart. He's like, you just can't shake it. You don't know what it is. And you
Yeah.
finally get in, that quiet. He finally just says, like, your motives aren't right.
Mm. Yeah.
You know, you you're in it for the wrong reasons. Like, yes, you want to be financially independent. Yes, you have goals. Yes, you have things that you want to accomplish. But at the end of the day, if you're just trying to use other people just to get those things, your heart's not right. Another
Exactly.
thing that I believe indicator of when God is telling you to pivot is when your when your creativity, in the beginning in Genesis, God talks about how the first thing he wanted you to know about him is that he's a creator. He says
Yeah.
it in Genesis that, in the beginning God created. So
Yep.
because he's a creator, that means that we are creators because we're made in his image. And so
Yep.
we're designed to create things to benefit other people. And
Hmm.
when that
Yep.
goes on a shelf, that's why so many people have problems with jobs. It's not
Yeah.
just because don't want to be controlled. Is they don't want to be controlled, yes, financially, but they don't want to be controlled
Yeah.
whatever that. And so it's like, and people put that in words, but that's exactly what it is. When your creativity is capped, it's like you lie dormant and you can't
Yeah.
put words to it. And because we are designed to create things, when you're in an environment where everything is either done for you or you don't have that freedom because of different stipulations or whatever the case may be to be
Hmm.
yourself or
Yeah.
create, then
Hmm.
it's you basically hit a wall. And
Yeah.
so that's on, just ask you about as well. Did you feel like your creativity kind of like had a show at some point?
Yeah. I'm glad you touched on that too, because I feel like we all have gifts that God has placed within us. And for me, I was searching, like, what is my gift? And I think you can attest to this, throughout the team. I would encourage people. I would be here and be that and give wisdom and just all this stuff. And I'm like, and I knew for me it was the ministry and just being able to help people and all of that. And that's what I loved about it. That's what it was for me. But again, I felt like that I was somewhat in a box, because even though I had a business, I was still within another business. And
Yeah.
I couldn't really I couldn't really do what I wanted to do. It wasn't like, yeah, I can speak on stage, but I got to speak on a certain thing.
Hmm.
Yeah, I can be myself with speaking like that, but it's still like not exactly what I want to do. So I
Hmm.
didn't feel like I could really let my wings flap. Even though, yeah, I could be my personality, I could, but it wasn't of, I could try different things because maybe I want to do it this way, or maybe I just want to create a different way. And I felt like that, yeah, I was somewhat in a box, even though it may have been a pretty box, it may be a bigger box and all of that, but it wasn't a box that I could get out of at the
It
same time.
was it stroked your ego.
Yeah,
It was a because you were put on a platform, and sometimes we have to realize that just because you get the platform doesn't mean that you get the victory. Because
yeah,
it was a prayer last year, and I feel like I was in the same place that you just touched on, where I was like, God, I'm at a point now where it's like, if I can't speak about you, I don't want to speak at all.
yeah,
Like, and I know that makes really like right like in there or whatever, but like you said, when you're in certain environments, and that creativity definitely is leaned in more towards ministry as well, like if that's who you are or whatever. But I felt like, okay, I want to get on this platform, I want to share about a testimony, I want to be able to truly help people. And I feel like another indicator, like if you're in an environment and your creativity is capped to a certain extent, let's say that you're in a business opportunity and it's not multi-level marketing, you're just in your, let's just say a job, we'll just say a job because most people are in jobs,
yeah,
you're at a, and you feel like God is calling you to the ministry, but every time you try to incorporate that into your job, you like wrong something is wrong about it. Your
yeah,
boss says this, coworkers are saying this, it seems like everything is going wrong. That may be an indicator that it's time for you to actually do ministry. And that
yeah,
applies to I feel like it applies to just about every type of pivot. When your
yeah,
creativity is, when you feel like you can't really pour into your gifts and things that you're passionate about in the environment that you're in, it's probably time to leave.
yeah,
And, you know, when I was saying that if I can't speak about God, then I don't want to speak at all. What I meant by that is, um, I got to a point where I got tired of being fake.
yeah,
I,
yeah,
it's like
yeah. I feel you. Yeah,
when I say, let me explain. I feel like I got to
mask.
explain things because
You have a mask,
what
like it's
like let me say, there's a difference. But okay, you can be positive. You can
yeah,
be positive. Have a mindset of like, man, I just got into this situation, but God, I know you're still for me. I know you're
exactly.
still with me.
Mm,
What is not positive is for you to act like nothing is happening, for you
yeah,
to just show out like, I don't
yeah,
have anything going on, I'm excited, I'm on go, things like that. And to a certain
yeah,
extent, you do have. like shield that you have to be protective. I'm not saying you just go out and bleed on people,
Yeah.
but we do have to be realistic, and that's something I'm really passionate about. I don't know about you. We haven't had this conversation, so definitely, jump in. But something I'm really passionate about, and that kind of led me on this journey of my quote unquote pivot, if you will, is I am really passionate about bringing people out of that mask.
Mm,
We
that-
live in a world
yeah.
where it breaks my heart to know that we have teenagers that are committing suicide, and here's the reason why. And this hits
Mm,
home for me. It really does. We have teenagers that are committing suicide because we let's take it for what it is. We're in a social media world. It is what it is. But you have teenagers that get on social media and they see people buying new houses, they see people buying new cars, they see the picture perfect. Everything's picture perfect.
yeah.
Nothing is. Why? Because everybody is showing the mask. But
Yeah.
deep down inside, like what you said you had when you were in that environment, you had a hum. You knew that, man, I know that I can flourish.
Yeah.
And like, I don't know what it is, but there's something that keeps you up at night. And there's
Yeah.
so many people are up late at night. God, what am I supposed to do? God, I know that you're calling me to something, but I just feel like I'm stuck. I just don't
Mm,
know what it is. Or you got people up late at night. Majority of people are up late at night battling with stuff. They're
mm,
battling with, intrusive thoughts. They're battling with suicide. They're battling with just not feeling good enough and all these other things. But those same people will turn around and post their highlights on social media.
yeah.
And I'm not saying purchasing cars and doing all those other things are bad, but at some point we need, I think more now than ever, people want to see authenticity. They want
Exactly.
to they want to see authenticity. They don't want, they're tired of the mask.
Yeah.
And that same, experience, like what was your experience as far as the fakeness? And I'm not saying, you know what
Oh yeah. Yeah. I feel you. Like I definitely agree because for me, um, I had a mask on just for a long time. I mean, even like before the business and all of that, like because I was trying to portray this strong woman, single mom, I'm doing things and all of that. Because again, we have to put on that mask for society, and that's what we're expected to do. And so I carried that into going into the business too. So it was this mask of, again, I was going to be the strong one. I was going to be the courageous one. I was going to get after it, the Marine and all of that, and move out of my way. And
right.
that brought me down even more internally because that really wasn't me. It was just me hiding. And that is reflected onto other people because when you come across people who again can see through that, it's not going to go well. It's not going to go well. And I mean, I've been with people that I can see through their masks, and
Mhm.
that caused distrust as well. So I think we are getting to a point that I know within myself that yeah, I just didn't want to wear the mask anymore. And I didn't want surface level. I wanted things that were deeper than that. I didn't want it to be that, oh, if I'm not this or I'm not that, then I'm not a part anymore. And sometimes that was a hard thing for me too, because again, I knew that with shifting, I knew that with God telling me, okay, it's time, that what I had thought I built, it really wasn't on actually solid ground. And that's because
Yeah.
when you have a mask, you're not building on solid ground. You're building more on sand. You're building more on nothing really. So having to take the mask off and relearn and to be able to cultivate, and that's what really even learning who you are within yourself too. And I think a lot of us, I
Right.
speak for myself, I didn't even know really me. So having to even like go through that, and I mean, God been helping me through that too. But it's like getting the mask off is another peaceful thing, because now I'm not trying to live up to anything, or like, or be something or this or that, and it's so much less stressful. So
And
it's
it's
go ahead.
y'all, beautiful, because I gotta stick a pin on this one right here. The
Yeah,
beautiful thing, and I want like so many people watching this that you can still grow when you take the mask off. Taking the mask off doesn't mean that settling, that you're no longer going to stretch yourself to grow, that you're no longer going to press into the books and the whatever it is that you're doing to grow yourself. Like that's not what it means, but there is a certain peace that comes with that when you do take the mask off. So I don't, you can finish on what you were saying. I just, just had to stick a pin in that one. That was like good
like
because people, go ahead.
yeah, there's so many, there's plenty of books, like I still read, and that's why I was saying, like, I feel like if I didn't have that time in my life that I was building the business, I wouldn't have developed those skills for now. So that's why I'm always thankful. I always go back to being so thankful and so grateful for those 4.5 years, because again, it still gave me tools. It still made me to be able to learn. And because I read now. I read now. I listen to podcasts now. It's a different aspect of it, because really it's more focused on things that I need to heal from. I had a lot of
Mm,
past woundings, and even those past woundings that I didn't, or those limiting beliefs that subconsciously we can have, that was really keeping me from actually having a big business. I wasn't tapping into that. And
mm,
sometimes not everybody is focused on that part of things, to actually go into the stuff that's actually stopping you from being who God made you to be. I had to tap into that. So yes, we're gun ho about, let's build a big business, or let's go into my job and work this 9 to 5 and make this money and all of that. But what are really my limiting beliefs to actually be who God created me to be? Because if I feel like I'm not even worthy to even prosper or be who God has called me and what he says in the Bible, then why am I not fixing that? But I want the money and I want the success and I want all of that, but I'm not fixing why I can't even have that, why I feel like I'm not worthy of it. So I still read, I still do all of that. So yes, if the shift doesn't mean that you just, wipe your hands of everything and say, okay, I'm just going to watch Netflix now. Like, no, it's not of that. It's even more, it's even
what?
a little, it's even more disciplined, because now I'm not in a controlled environment that I'm like, oh well, if I do this, then I'm gonna get a treat or a pat on the back. And again, I'm not saying anything wrong with that, but it's a little bit more discipline now for me, because again, now it's just me. It's me and God with this. So yeah, yeah, but yeah, you always keep growing, always keep growing.
Something else I wanted to hit on is just because God is calling you to something else, just because He is telling you to pivot something else, don't discount what He's pivoting you from.
Hmm.
Because, there's a verse in the Bible that talks about He works all things for your good. And I think when it is time to pivot, people can ask themselves questions and beat themselves up like, well, dang, did I do something wrong? I've been in this for X amount of years. And you know, was that wasted time? Did I hear God right? Was I supposed to be in that environment? And it's like, no. Do you not know who we serve? I mean, when we take steps, God is so gracious to order those steps.
Exactly.
And it's like, don't feel bad and don't beat yourself up because of the previous season that he's now calling you from.
Yeah.
Just like we're saying, is just be grateful for that season and just know
Right.
that good things that happen during that season you can take with you into the next season.
Exactly.
um but man, I know we basically said a lot, but it
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
so and I'm so thankful for you. I appreciate you for even hopping on and just sharing from your heart and just letting the Holy Spirit guide you, because there were questions that you answered for me, and I'm the one that started the video, but it doesn't matter. But
Yeah.
you are an amazing person, and I'm just so thankful that you even had the courage to step out and do what God called you to do. And I just know that God is going to honor that. So just tell people where they can find you, um, your social, and all that stuff.
Yes. So I'm on Instagram, Raven Driel. So I'm gonna spell it RAVENDREALE at Instagram and all that. And then my Facebook, you can look me up, Raven McKinney. That's McKinney. But yeah, on those social medias, I'm not on Snapchat or anything like that, but I'm on Instagram and Facebook. But one last thing I would like to be able to say is that, you know, again, it wasn't of bashing network marketing or my time in the business or anything like that, because again, it was an amazing time. And I feel like that is so much good work in network marketing and in that business. And there's people that, change lives in it. And to be honest, again, it still changed my life. It was still so good for me. It was there for me at moments that, and that I was at my lowest. And I got to meet people like you. So, this whole talk wasn't to say, oh, well, you know, that's not good or move or anything like that, because some people it does, like it's in their heart, it's in what they feel like God is wanting them to do. And it's great. This is just my story, this is just what it was for me. But again, I'm always grateful, and I still look back at certain points and all of that, and just again just being just gratitude about it, because again it just taught me so much. So but thank you, Keisha. I
You're
love you. I always have. We always had great conversations. I think we connected the most, and again, I just love you, and I just thank you so much. You always just been such a good spirit, and you are a real down to earth person, and you are going to do so much things, and you already doing so much things and making such a good impact on people's lives. And I'm just so proud of you for even being able to do this and stepping outside of yourself or your comfort with it. So blessings to you.
Thank you so much. And I apologize, but this pressing question is just on my heart. And
Okay. I know it's getting dark out here. I'm sorry, y'all.
but you can hear the information. The point is the information.
Yeah.
Um, do you feel like a pivot can even happen in your heart? Like
Oh,
God can be like, sometimes we can get so
yeah.
focused on, because our world is so success minded and moving forward and stuff like that.
Yep.
God called me to move to the state. God told me to go do this and go do that.
Yep.
Could it be God is just pivoting? He wants you to pivot your heart, maybe.
Totally agree. So Ecclesiastics, it talks about how God has really put the internal life in your heart, and society. And again, I'm just speaking from me. We are taught so much to follow this,
Hmm.
minds, which again is a very egotistical thing. But we are less
Hmm.
taught to follow our hearts, and our hearts can, yes, be able to change, because God is of love, and love is not just one thing. It's just not just set in stone. So it can be able to shift, it can be able to move. And love and your heart is being able to let go, is being able to receive, is being able to flow. But when we're taught so much to be so much in our minds, it's like we just want it one way. That's it. This is what I'm supposed to do. And boom. And it's like a lot of us are not connected really within our hearts to be able to actually even follow that. So again, that's why I say when you get in solitude with yourself and God and actually go within your heart, you can be able to listen to it and say, okay, now I'm not talking about emotions or feelings. Those can
Right.
switch and can be like, oh, well, I'm angry this point and I'm this at that point. But when you have that still small voice within and you have that knowing, that is of that's of God. That is of security. That is of, again, the heart. Not emotions, not feelings, but of trueness of the heart, because God is of the heart. So yes, I
Mm.
definitely agree that it can be able to shift. Yeah.
So what do we say? A holy disconnect, or a holy, it is a holy disconnect. I'm saying holy discontent. A holy disconnect. Um,
Yeah.
sit still and with God, not chasing after your emotions, but you just have this knowing, and you will know, like
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
spirit knows truth.
Yeah.
And the other thing is when your creativity is capped.
Yeah.
Those are, I feel like, the three main things of when you just know that it's time to pivot.
Exactly.
And God is, so I thank you so much. Um,
Yeah.
leave in the comments, what have you, if you've ever had a pivot, and like what was the journey, and things like that. So definitely like this video, and we'll see you in the next one.